So we're going to be talking about business agility and how, imagine you had some sort of machine and there were 4 dials on it. And if you set it up the right way, you would be able to go in and set up your company, your organization with the right level of business agility. Just talking about what do we mean when we say business agility. So I have a simple definition up here. The degree to which we can effectively respond to changing customer needs. So the thing to focus on here is we're thinking about customers and we're thinking about change. So your customers are, they have some needs and maybe they will stay static for a while, but they might change as well. And how quickly can you respond to that is a sign of your overall business agility. Now, there might be other things that are important for your organization, like quality and overall fitness of your offerings. Don't get me wrong, we have to worry about those, but specifically today on the agility front, your ability to respond, what do we need to really pay attention to? So hang on to this definition as we kind of go and think about this dashboard. All right, so for levers, then maybe you could just imagine there's a bunch of readouts here to show where it's actually operating, and you're trying to set things to the right level. So let's go lever by lever and kind of talk about what they are. So the first lever is what I refer to as your replenishment frequency. And so you want to think about this as how often do you go and make decisions on what you're actually going to do. And so all the things that you could do, I'm going to call those options. And all the things that you've decided that you will do, you'll start to do, I'm going to call those commitments. So it's really this idea of committing options into commitments. And how often do you do that? And so this is something you really need to think about. So you imagine you had this dial and you made these decisions hourly or on demand or yearly on the other side. And so it's kind of interesting. You know, my colleagues and I, we meet a lot of companies and we talk about their existing agile efforts. And a lot of times we have a conversation that goes a little bit like this. You know, we've really invested in our agility and, you know, we're delivering very frequently, maybe every week or every couple of weeks or every month or every couple of days, whatever the answer is. And this is, you know, it obviously took a lot of effort and impressive. But then the question returns to, oh, well, how often do you make decisions on those things that you're rapidly delivering? And sometimes you get answers like, yeah, well, we have an annual planning cycle, or we have a quarterly planning cycle and we figure out what we're going to do. And this is a very traditional way of making decisions. And so the question you might be thinking about as you think about this agility dashboard is quarterly or yearly product planning agile enough for what you're trying to do? So to kind of really zero in on this, let's use an analogy on a couple of activities that we're all familiar with. And I'm going to talk about grocery shopping. And so I ask this question a lot and I usually get a very consistent answer on it. And so the question is, how often does the average European go grocery shopping versus the average North American? And typically the answer I get is, well, you know, Europeans generally every day, maybe skip a day here and there, but generally every day, interested in maybe getting some fresh bread and other items that make sense with regards to going shopping every day. And with regards to North Americans, this is more once a week on average, maybe a little bit more frequent than that, although these days maybe it's even less frequent than that. Certainly I've been stocking up. But so here's some differences, right? So if you are shopping weekly, your basket is going to be a lot bigger, right? The lady in the market, she doesn't actually have wheels on hers, but the one at the big grocery store, you know, you obviously need wheels and it's packed. And So what are the implications of that? And so the next question you want to think about is, who's got bigger refrigerators? And so if you think about the European refrigerator, it's this kind of compact unit. And in North America, the bigger the better, right? One door is not enough. We need 2 doors, right? And so we got these two very different refrigerators, and what are the implications? Well, the implications are that if I had gone grocery shopping on my weekly trip, then I've pretty much set my potential options for the week. So the stuff that's in my refrigerator and my pantry and so on, I can make meals based on what's available. Now on the smaller refrigerator side, well, I can change my mind, right? So tomorrow's a new day and I'm gonna go to the market and I'm gonna replenish every day versus replenish every week. And so if I wanna have pizza on a Wednesday and I don't have mozzarella, no problem. I'll go out and get it. And so you're starting to think about different replenishment frequencies. How often am I going out and converting options into things I'm going to commit to? I am in one way or another committed to the things that are in my refrigerator. Either I'm going to eat them or they're going to go bad. All right, so I'm committed in one way or another. And so the amount of things you commit to has a relationship with how frequently you replenish. The more often you replenish, the smaller the size of the things that you're committing to is. So in a knowledge work term, batch size is smaller. And the less frequently you replenish, the bigger your batch, the more commitments you have. And so being able to pivot and moving to pizza might be a bit of a challenge if you're midweek and you haven't thought to buy mozzarella ahead of time. So that's something to think about in terms of an analogy around how often you want to replenish. So let's talk about the second and third lever now. Now, I think this is the one that people sort of gravitate towards right away. So, you think about agility, we talk about speed, right? Now, there's some nuance to that we need to really understand. First of all, speed in relation to customers, first of all. So we're talking about business agility. Customers are experiencing your business agility in terms of their perception of speed. So it doesn't really matter how fast you are within your organization. We're talking about the speed in terms of how the speed that is experienced as customers are receiving your products or services. So there is how fast did it take something to get delivered, but there's also another dimension around how predictable are your deliveries. And so to illustrate this point, let's talk about, imagine you were trying to travel from Tokyo to Osaka, right? So these are 2 big cities in Japan, a fair distance away, kind of other sides of the island. Now, I have some options, right? And these are 2 popular ones. I could take an airplane, and the maximum speed of that airplane is 930 kilometers per hour. And so it's going to get me there very fast. Conversely, I could take the bullet train, and that has a top speed of 320 kilometers per hour. So if I'm thinking about comparing speed, obviously we have a winner with regards to the airplane. But now if we think about predictability, the delays that you might experience with regards to the flight, sometimes in minutes, usually almost always in minutes. So I don't think I've been on many flights that have left precisely when they were supposed to. And frequently hours and even days sometimes. The average delay for the bullet train is 24 seconds. So it depends on what the customer is thinking. If I have a meeting that I can't be late to, as long as I leave on time, the bullet train is a better option. If I'm returning home maybe after that meeting and I want to get home as fast as possible, but delays are something that I can maybe tolerate. Maybe the airplane is the best option. So when you think about your agility and you think about speed, you're now thinking about two things. You're thinking about how fast, but also how predictable. And those are two things that you'll want to understand with regards to who are your customers, what do they want, what is the product that you're actually offering. All right, and lever number 4. And this is the other one that I kind of led with in terms of the conversation that a lot of people invest in. So release frequency. How often do we want to deliver to our customers? And so again, this is about getting things in the hands of your customers. How often are you doing that? And so this is another thing that you want to think about with regards to, what is it that I'm offering? So let's compare these two products here. Should these two products have the same delivery frequency? Now, if it's the smartphone game, their customers, they want to capture their attention. They're always releasing new levels, new promotions, new things to keep their application exciting, and so it's important for them to maybe release quite frequently. On the other hand, tax software, this year might be a bit of off year, but on a normal year, nobody cares if the tax software is released in July. Everyone's gonna buy it close to tax season, end of the year, once they know what's going on, and that's when you release it and maybe have frequent updates then. But throughout the year leading up to it, you don't need a lot of frequent deliveries. So it matters what it is that you're delivering. And the other side you want to be thinking about is your customers in terms of their tolerance. So what is your customer's tolerance to delivery? So here is a new feature, a new service being delivered, and it's coming at you not when you want to receive it. And so you want to be thinking about your customer's tolerance to taking on deliveries as you think about how frequent I should be delivering and what is my pattern around that. So there you have 4 dials, and you now have this machine and you want to play around with them. The important thing that we need to remember, it's not about setting these things to maximum. It's really about understanding your market, understanding your products, understanding your services, and where do these dials need to sit? Am I Candy Crush or am I the tax software? Am I the bullet train? Am I the airplane? Am I about big fridges or small fridges? And so understanding your customers allows you to figure out where these dials need to be. And your next step is about understanding where you are at. So some level of inquiry for yourself. What are our processes like? What are we actually at? Let's do some measurements. And then go on your journey to move these dials to where they need to be. And so how do we do that? To help with replenishment frequencies, you need to reduce decision transaction costs. So if you have, a bunch of executives that need to get together, and you have to put together all sorts of material and business cases in order to make a decision to move an option into a commitment, and several meetings need to take place, then that's a very high transaction cost process. And so that's not going to allow you to really move the dial into a high frequency replenishment frequency, because it's going to cost too much. It's going to take too much time. So moving that dial will have the implications of examining your decision-making process and seeing whether it can be streamlined. Things like distributed decision-making, frameworks for decision-making, are these things that we need to invest in so that we can actually still maintain coherent and high-quality decisions, but at the same time make them a lot quicker. In the speed and predictability side, so my bread and butter in terms of our consulting, where are your sources of delay, managing flow, what are the things that are either making your service unpredictable or impeding your ability to meet certain speeds. And then finally, your release frequency lever, you need to reduce transaction costs there. So where is your investment strategy on things like DevOps? Where is your your decision-making process with regards to confirming quality and allowing things to go out. So imagine you're an organization that has CAB meetings and you have a whole cast of characters showing up and we have to talk about this and that, and it happens maybe every week or every couple of weeks. That's going to add transaction costs. So it's going to, allow you to get to a certain frequency of releases. But if you wanted to move the dial a little bit faster, obviously you're going to have to go and say, well, how do we speed things up? We don't necessarily want to sacrifice quality, but at the same time, while managing those risks, how do we go about allowing things to release faster? And obviously DevOps has a lot of answers for that sort of thing. So there are your dials. We really hope you enjoyed our video and hope you come back and watch the next one. If you're watching on YouTube, please consider subscribing. You may want to consider taking our training classes or even leveraging some of our consulting services. They can make a real difference in terms of how quickly you can actually start. Information for both of these are available at squirrelnorth.com, and we hope to see you for our next video.